With my paintings and my drawings, I'm always trying to find a way of pushing the boundaries, of bringing in materials that I haven't seen used before, or just anything that interests me. And I find that over time I start to see things for their inherent use within my pictures more so than what they used in the natural world. And Trybe was trying to kind of expand on this idea, because I wanted all the characters to have very strong identities when they came into the show, onto the platform. And that was a big challenge, because I knew that the end product, the end face, had to have a very high intensity about it. It had to have a lot of paint, and it had to be painted in a certain way that diffused all the performers when they entered the space, and the audience kind of forgot about them and got caught up in the face instead of the individual performers. So the show shifted from having the performers come on stage and becoming important elements of the picture to becoming just part of the picture as objects would in a painting or a drawing. With Trybe, it was just taking it further by allowing the objects, which were the performers, to have their own identity and come on stage and play out a role, but then to be fused into the painting for that identity to be dismantled. When I wrote the script, I knew it had to be very structured, and so I could hand it to a performer or a dancer and they could find their place within it. When choosing a choreographer for the show, the obvious choice for me was Nicole Ryan. Nicole's had a wealth of experience running dance companies, being a choreographer for years, as well as being a dancer. So she found 4 performers that she thought would be perfect for the colours when I gave her the synopsis of what those colours were meant to be. And with Nicole, I needed Nicole to have creative input into the choreography and the dance movements, but I needed the performers to be in certain spots at certain times, and I wanted them to have certain parts of their routines were acting based or drama based, but I knew other parts of it were just based on the choreography. And within that, they started to develop a character that was full. If I could get them tight around me and they knew what they were doing, then I could lay my part on top of that to pull the whole show together. And even though they knew the outline of the show and what was going to happen, they'd never seen it done before, so they had no idea what they were in for. I've researched the meaning of the colours as well in history, so I could give Greg Long, the composer, and Nicole Ryan, the choreographer, an extensive kind of manifesto of what each colour was. So they could use that and take words out of that. And the meaning of the colours spills over into an infinite interpretations, because one, they're being played out by a person on a stage who is a character who's rounded out emotionally. Black with its dark side, as is blue with its spirit, as is red with its anger and violence, but also in its fertility, in its blood, in its heartbeat. Especially with the musical part of it, Greg could take words out of blue he could build his music on.
Anthony initially really just threw words at me. He had this idea. He said, let's do a project together. Let's do a project involving me painting and a project involving you making music. He'd come just with a colour, pigment, red, it says at the top, it says red, and then just like paragraphs and paragraphs of things that pertain to red, the anger, emotions that it evokes, anger, you know, blood, all of these things, which was really, really good to work with. The same with blue. It was going to be, he wanted it to be soaring, he wanted it to be big, he wanted it to be bombastic. And it was a great way to work in the sense that there was no real specifics about what was going on. I didn't feel any pressure to be caged into a genre. And there's 5 particularly, I think, pretty distinct genres of music that represent the 5 colours. And there wasn't time to think or really second guess once we had committed, and we're both similar in that regard, that once we commit to something, we follow it through, and in this instance we did.
Blue was the colour of the spirit, and the horse was the animal of the spirit, so combining them was important. So when the horse gallops in the beginning of Blue, the show takes off, and the music takes off, and we're off and running.
It was a piece that needed to be very strong in the sense that it was the foundation both for the musical cues, it was the foundation for the dance cues, and it was when Anthony first put pigment onto the canvas.
With her routine, I needed to be quite practical, because that was when I had to do the most painting. I had to get round and set the boundaries and then set my base so I could start soaring along after that myself.
When it came to writing Blue, it was very good. In the end, it was a late night session on the guitar, and I just ended up writing and playing 3 notes, and I did that for 45 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, and I just played 3 notes over and over again. But they then formed the foundation, they're the bricks, if you like, of blue, or the molecules of the water, these little tiny building blocks, these 3 notes, which if you listen to the composition, they're there from start to finish in slightly different inversions, and it's elemental. It's very simple, and it was the first things that we heard from me, and it's a big soaring piece, and it was a lot of fun to watch the dancers move to.
The first colour in cave painting was red. So red for me became the colour of all Indigenous cultures, as well as masculinity, fertility, anger, war, but also blood, and masculinity in women as well as men, a sense of ownership, of aggression, but healthy aggression as well. And
when Anthony was telling me about red, he was telling me in terms of like ancient cave paintings, Indigenous people. And at the start of red, it really sounds like a call to prayer, or even just like a plaintive cry, something like that. It sounds very ancient and very, very beautiful.
With the music for red, that Greg composed a piece that didn't peak too early, but had a very strong intensity and masculinity about it as well.
Very, very primal stuff. So I started messing around with percussion parts, sort of Bedouin-inspired and Arabic-inspired percussion patterns and the like.
I really enjoyed directing Nick, who played Red, in his sequence of becoming the hunter and becoming the hunted, because I wanted to have, it was probably one of the few moments in the show where there was a narrative as such set up. It was also a cycle of life happening in front of us as well, because he went from slaying another animal to being slain himself and dying on the canvas, and I casting the final blow into him. So there was lots of cycles in life and death within the cycle of the show.